Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Tuesday nights. I've got a good one for you tonight. I don't know about you, but I am in love with the First Frost stamp set. It is just so incredibly feminine, soft, lovely, everything I would want for cards for the special ladies in my life. And I've had a lot of fun playing with it. But recently I came across a two-color stamping technique that I wanted to share with you. Now, what do I mean by two colors? Well, if I bring this up, hopefully you can see, let me just start with the flower first. Can you see that that has two colors in it? It uses Blushing Bride and Highland Heather. And it reminds me a lot of a rose that I used to grow some years ago. It's got that wonderful depth to it that only having two or more colors can really give something. Even the leaf image can be done with the two-color stamping. Here I've used Mint Macaron and Smoky Slate. And it kind of reminds me of, oh, what's that flower? That plant, Dusty Miller. That's what it is. It used to be one of my all-time favorites because it was very silvery, but if you look closely, it had a green undertone to it. So I decided to give it a whirl, and this was kind of my practice here, just playing with layout and different colors to use. And that's what we're going to be doing tonight. It really is pretty, but there's nothing difficult about it. So as I mentioned, we're going to use our First Frost stamp set. Colors are Blushing Bride and Highland Heather for the roses, and I'm sticking with the Mint Macaron and the Smoky Slate for the leafy image. I highly recommend that you use your Stamparatus for this, especially because First Frost stamps are clear mount, so you can't really see how to exactly line it up if you've already stamped it. And I'm also going to be using my sponge daubers. You can use this, you can use your Stampin' Sponges, but this is how I was able to control when I wanted to put that second color on. Also, to make sure it looked very kind of watercolor washed, when I inked up my stamps, I went over it with the sponge dauber over the stamp itself, just to wipe off some of that excess color to keep it very, very soft. So let's get into how we do this. Pull my daubers aside here and move my ink out, and I'll bring in my Stamparatus. Now, because these are clear mount, I took out the little pad that goes along with this. We don't need it since we've already got that cushiony rubber stamp to use. And we'll start out with our design panel. So this will be our front. If you hear click clacking, that's my little Winnie underneath. She decided to come in and join us. And because I want the roses in the foreground, I'm going to go ahead and stamp the leaves first. So for that, I'll use the image that has both the leaves and the little stems. And then I'm also going to do a little bit of fill in with just the stem. I'll bring this back in just so you can see how I do it. Pull it over here. But my very first one, I always like to do going off the page. So I'll line that up. Get good placement on it. And then let me put this down so my pad has something to rest on, or my plate has something to rest on. And I'll bring it down because I really do want you to be able to see how I do this. And actually, it might be simpler. Let me just turn this sideways. I think it'll be a little bit easier for you to see, keeping everything in shot. I think I have enough room on my desk. Okay, there we go. Let me just flip this around. And I'm not putting it all the way up in the corner here. I know it's very convenient to do that, but I like to have mine away from the hinges so that I can make sure that I get, I can press down well on it. All right, so again, my first one's going to come off. So I'll position it just like that. And now I started with the mint macaron. So I'll ink that up. And then I'm going to take my sponge dauber here, and I'm just going to dab, removing just a little bit of that ink. Because again, I want it to be very, very soft, especially since these are in the background. All right, so there I have it. I'm going to clean off the stamp. And then here is the magic of your two-color stamping. With our Smoky Slate, we'll take our sponge dauber and ink it up. And then we need to decide where we want the gray to show through. On here, I don't know if you can see it well, but when I stamp the leaves, there is a little bit of a lighter part, and then you've got your dark green or darker green areas. So what I want to do is keep this to where it doesn't get inked up, first of all, but decide where I want that. So I'm going to concentrate more on my lighter areas, which are these kind of to the outside. And I'm just taking my ink and brushing it on those areas. Don't have to have complete coverage. Then I'm just here and there going to pick out some of these little buds. And I think that's going to be good. So now that we've got the gray on there, let's press it down. And because we used our sponge dauber, there's not a lot of ink on there. You may need to leave it down for an extra second or two just to make sure the ink that's there transfers. And here, I don't know if you can see it, but I've got some gray there. However, I want a little bit more. Not a problem, just come back in. And do it again. This is why the Stamparatus is essential to doing your two-color stamping. And that looks really good. So I'll wipe this off. It will lighten up a little bit more as it dries and become very, very watercolor washed. Now, some people say, well, you know, you could just ink up part of it with a dauber in the mint macaron and then part of it with the Smoky Slate with the other dauber. And I tried that, but the colors, you don't get a blending of the colors when you do it that way. So I found that this was just a little bit better. I'm going to put in my next image. And this one I want to come up a bit higher, but I want to preserve as much of my leaves as I can. So I'm actually going to angle it outward. Remember, we've got the bud image that doesn't have leaves that we can always come back and do any fill-ins. All right, so here I go with the mint macaron again. No, Linda, you're doing the Smoky Slate. And I guess I probably could do that, but I like starting with that mint macaron. The Smoky Slate seems to kind of push the color of the mint macaron into the background, and I really did like the softness that that gave it. So ink it up. And then again with my Mint Macaron sponge dauber, lightly go over it just to remove a little bit of that ink. And now press it down. There we go. And we're going to repeat the process with wiping off our stamp and then coming in with our Smoky Slate. And you know what, I think I have a piece of scratch paper here because it looks like I might have gotten a little Mint Macaron on my Smoky Slate here. So let me just wipe some of that off. There we go. Much better. And now come in with my, yep, there's my Smoky Slate. Ink it up. And then once again, we're going to come back and hit those parts that we want the gray shadow on. Not doing up the entire stamp. All right, press it down. And the beauty is you can come back and go over it as many times as you want. So if you think you need a little bit more, just hit it again. My Smoky Slate's getting a little dry. I need to re-ink it. How many times have you heard me say that? All right, so there we go. And again, as it dries, it is definitely going to push it into the background and become very soft and faded. Let's see if we want to, I had one more over here. And I think it was running right down the bottom. And for this, I actually need to move my paper up just a little bit because I did want it to kind of go along that left corner. Maybe, yep, I think that's where I want it, right there. I hope you guys are having a good week. We are finally going to get to see our new grandbaby this weekend. I am so excited. She is just putting on weight nicely. It was so great that she didn't have to stay in the NICU for very long. All right. And actually, I think I'm going to give that a little more Mint Macaron. There we go. So we're almost done with our leaves. And you saw that even though I'm having to wipe off my stamp each time I change colors, it still is really not taking me very long at all. Okay. The last one here, I only have to do the tops of my flowers. Kind of hard for you to see, I know, since I've got it all the way over here. Let me see if I can pull it back a little ways. There we go. So I only need to concentrate on just a few areas up at the very top. All right. So that's it for our stems, our buds and our leaves. We can take this off. and put that away. And let's see, did we want to do any fill-ins? I'm going to have some roses down around here. So the fact that this stem doesn't come all the way out really does not concern me too much, but I think I want just a little more height there. Always keep reaching for that wrong color. And this one I'm not going to daub off because it's such a light image anyway, but I am going to add a little bit of gray to it. Sometimes if you just grab the edges, that gives you all you need. Okay, I think that's all we need. Just that one fill-in should do nicely. So let's put this away. You do the same exact thing with your roses. Let me just put this up. And I've already stamped those out, but I did want to show you how to do it real quick. Oops, come on, close. So I've got a piece of paper here. Take that off for now, and I'll quickly run through and show you how I did the roses themselves. And I used the larger one in the set. And here I started with the Blushing Bride and just inked it up. Came in with my dauber and just gently took off a little bit of the color and then stamped it down. You can see just how pretty that is, how very light and soft. So we cleaned it off. Then I'm going to come in with my Highland Heather. And just with a sponge dauber, pick up a bit of the color. And I just chose a few spots. And I did some around the edges because that's where a flower normally would have a little bit of darkness, but I did want a little bit in the center as well. And just press it down. And there you have it. Bring that up so you can see how it just really adds a very, very pretty depth to it. Okay, I've got one more bit of stamping to do. Hey, Amy, thanks for joining us tonight. And that is the sentiment. So let me bring back in my design panel. And the sentiment I actually took from Love What You Do. It's a beautiful day. It's just such a pretty, pretty. It's not in here. Oh, wait, there it is. I can't see to save my life tonight. Okay. So it's a beautiful day, surrounded by roses, soft breezes. I am not ready for summer to officially end yet. But as you can see, I left plenty of room in my upper right for that sentiment. And I wanted to keep with the softness of the card. Let me just make sure I've got that lined up. Looks pretty good. So I'm going to stick with the Smoky Slate. Here we don't need to worry about sponge daubers at all. We are just going to ink our sentiment up and press it down. And I'll probably have to ink it again because my pad, oops, as I said, is really dry. If you find you're not getting a good image, it could be because of your magnet. I'm going to slide it down towards the bottom, being very careful not to move my paper. I also don't have the pad in there, so it's not giving me the cushion. So remember to put your pad in if you switch from clear stamps to photopolymer, but I can make this work. It's just that one side. All right, move my magnet all the way to the bottom and see if that helps. I would try and slide my pad in there, but I just know that I would move the paper. There we go. A little bit down here. And that's our sentiment. Okay, so we can put our Stamparatus up for the moment. Just give it a quick wipe. And now let's continue on with our roses. So I stamped, pardon me, stamped and cut out 3 of them. And for my placement, I am going to probably glue that first one straight down and then probably that second one too, and then lift up, although I may lift up that one too to give it a little dimension. So let's see what that looks like. Oh, also, I was thinking I might want a bit of ribbon. And I didn't have any of the mint macaron, but I did have the 1/8 inch Whisper White. So with my sponge dauber and a little bit of mint macaron ink, I just went over it. And it really, I think, turned out pretty. So I'm going to go ahead and put that down. Bring out my snail here. Decide where I want it. And I think right about there is going to be perfect. Just like that. And now it's all sticky on the back. Let's see. I don't have my silicone mat with me, but I can sure use, oh, I know what I can use, the laminate out of my Stamparatus. Always nice to have something. And usually it's my silicone mat to where the tape won't stick. There we go. Now we can work on the placement of our roses. So I said this one's going to get glued straight down. And then this one, I think I do want to prop up. Let me bring in my dimensionals here. And we'll just tilt this a little bit and pull it that way. And then for my last one, and this I'll actually put two, I'll double up on the dimensionals. So I'll put one there, and then peel off the backing and put another one. And that way I don't run the risk of it mashing down. It will stand up nicely because it's double the dimension. So there you can see, if I turn it this way, flat, one dimension, two dimensions. Okay, I'm liking that. Now we can put it onto a card front. I love, love, love the way that it looked with the Blackberry Bliss cardstock, but it was a little too stark. I did want to have as much of the design panel showing as possible. So I took, this panel is 5.5 inches long. So it goes from the very top to the very bottom of the cardstock. I just wanted a little bit showing on the outside in order to give a transition from the design panel to the cardstock. I thought I would use some of the lovely Petal Promenade paper. And what I'll do is just have a very thin border showing. So I'll get out my snail here, go right over my ribbon, and I always have to have it facing me in order to get it on there the way I want. I have it this way. Nope, flowers are going that way, Linda. And just, this is also cut to 5.5 inches long. And I think that I need it to be a little bit narrower than that. There we go. So I just wanted a little bit of the color peeking out. Not a lot. Well, fazzizzle. Come on, narrow border. Sometimes it's better to work with liquid glue because you can squiggle it around, but I'll get it. There we go. That's what I wanted. Just a thin, thin border. Oh, sorry guys, but it's not playing well. So let's try that one more time. Third time's a charm, right? There we go. Perfect. Now the other side will go on. Easy breezy, you'll see. Make sure I have my, well, this one doesn't really matter. The flowers don't really see a direction on them. I think I'll make that darker bit at the bottom. And again, I want just a thin, thin border. Okay, told you that one would go on easy. Now we're ready to put it down, but as you can see, there is a nice transition between my design panel and the card base of Blackberry Bliss. For this, I will use my liquid glue. And then just make sure that you have an even border on both sides. Isn't that pretty? So it looks nice. I'm glad I added the ribbon to it, but it needs just a little something more. So I thought it would be nice to add some pearls to it. but the white pearls would get lost against all of the white you see on the design panel. What I did was I grabbed my blends and I grabbed the mint macaron and then the light and the dark smoky slate. And I just colored 3 pearls. I'm going to start with the mint macaron. Oops, got a hair on there. There we go. And just decide where you want it. And you know me, I love to work in 3s. So I think I'm going to put one right there. And then I've got the dark smoky slate, which I'm going to stick up that way. And then one light smoky slate, which I think I will bring right there. And that's all I really wanted to do with the pearls. Okay, so there you have it. Really very, very simple to do, but I love that two-tone stamping. I think it just adds even more interest to your card. I hope you guys will give it a try. If you have any questions at all about it, just drop me a comment and I'll be more than happy to help you out with it. Otherwise, I'm not going to be doing a video Saturday. So our Saturday Anything Goes won't be doing, like I said, we're going to be spending time with our beautiful new granddaughter. But I did put in my order for the Snowflake Showcase. It's supposed to get here tomorrow. So I thought Thursday night, let's go ahead and make a card using the Snowflake Showcase. So I'll put it up on Facebook. I'll shoot for 8 o'clock again. That seems to work for people. And we'll have some fun then. Have a great couple of days until I talk to you on Thursday. Bye, y'all.